Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Sean Black, aka DFS 5050. You can follow me on Instagram at DFS 5050, as well as Sean Black, SeanBlaque. In today's lineup builder show, what I want to do first is go over last night's lineups that I had, and basically just wanted to show you guys something that I found quite interesting. I was heavily gassed on LeBron James, as you can see on these lineups here. I had LeBron James on pretty much all of my lineups. Out of all of these lineups, this lineup right here with the Schroeder, Peyton, Beal, Hardaway Jr., James, and Prince, Kanter, Hernangomez, and Vucevic was the only one that happened to cash. I only had $200 left remaining in that salary. In this lineup here, this one did not cash, and this one did not cash as well either. Actually, as a matter of fact, with this particular lineup here, I actually ended up changing out Reggie Jackson to someone else. But I'm going to show you guys the winning lineup and then the top lineup for that particular night. So as you can see here on my left is my lineup. I was 4183 out of 29,000. As you see, Dennis Schroeder did not have a good outing. Some friends were asking me, why did you pick Schroeder? I said, well, I picked him because, Millsap is out. They need production. He can score. And I felt despite John Wall's defensive capabilities, I felt like he would be able to get some shots off. Of course, that didn't necessarily happen. They kind of got started late. He started kind of getting late into it because he really didn't get most of his points until the second half. And as you can see, what really killed him was the fact that this dude had 10 turnovers. He had 10 turnovers. 10. So, I mean, I could have had more money, considering that he would have, played a little bit better. Smarter basketball, but hey, it is what it is. Elfrid Payton, safe for cash. He definitely has that GPP upside. We didn't get that from him yesterday. And it's okay. I'm okay with that. No big deal. Bradley Beal, showed out. He definitely paid off his salary, more than paid off his salary, really. And then we actually had a discount from him because before, I think he was 81.85 a couple of days back. Tim Hardaway Jr. is definitely the beneficiary of Paul Millsap being out. This dude has been playing lights out. He plays some smart basketball. He was 17.6 owned, which is really good. You still can inch your way into the leaderboards there with that. LeBron James was a very, 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 very big disappointment for me yesterday. At 11-1, I was expecting him to do about 50 to 55 fantasy points. Around the industry, everyone was projecting him to do about 70, considering that the game was supposed to be close. The game was close, but however, they got blown out by 13 points. This is not really the type of basketball that they're used to playing. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's trying to rest. I don't know if he's trying to send a message. However, LeBron James was a complete dud, thus, really just messing up my line, really, overall, because if you look at it, if he would have had the 50, right, which he was 22 points away from that, and the Schroeder would have had the 10, that's 3 right there. That would have put me at like around 313 and some change. Elfrid Payton, 336. Because I was expecting him to do about at least 40, 35, 40, but it's okay. No big deal on that. Taurean Prince was a good value play at 3,900. Enes Kanter, I know we talked about him a little bit. He did pretty well. He was 6.4% owned, surprisingly. Juancho Hernangomez, he was 3.4% owned, which I was expecting. No one's going to be on him. Nikola Vucevic was 11.7% owned, and he showed out, definitely. As you can see here on the winner's side, shout out to Dorset Quad 3 right there. He had Russell Westbrook, which everyone was going to be on. He was well, he was 29% owned. Jeff Teague, 36.4. Giannis went crazy, 62.6. Tim Hardaway, of course, we had that. Terrence Ross, he had 24.9. He was 6.1% owned, surprisingly. Jimmy Butler, he's been back on his mojo, so that's a good look on him. Mirotic went off for a minimal salary. I mean, the dude pretty much went 10x. So anybody who, would have won last night in the GPPs would have had him in the mix. Bobby Portis, 5% owned, 21.2. And then Jeffrey Laverne, at minimal salary, ended up giving you almost 10x at probably 8.5 to 9x there. So as you can see, where the money was being spent, most of the money was being spent between the shooting guards and small forwards. I mean, as far as the studs, Westbrook, Giannis, and Butler. On my end, I was spending more money on shooting guards, small forwards, and centers, for the most part, if that makes any sense. But in any case, this is where we are at. And as you see, the other lineups that I had didn't do so well. Let me go over those real quick. So I had George Hill, I had Elfrid Payton, Bradley Beal, Evan Fournier was kind of a dud. Should have had Tim Hardaway instead. I think that would have definitely made a big difference in me cashing last night. Of course, LeBron James sucked ass. Carmelo sucked ass. And the thing about Carmelo was I was expecting for him to do at least 35 or better, considering that his price has dropped. As of today, his price has dropped to 6,500. So I'm still going to plug him in regardless, because he's going to be super, super lower owned, considering that he hasn't been performing well. So it is what it is. Ersan Ilyasova was somewhat of a big disappointment for me. I should have had Mirotic. Again, the difference between winning a GPP and barely cashing or not cashing at all is you're like one or two players away, usually. Cody Zeller was a solid play. He basically 5x. So that's basically what ended up happening there. The other lineup that I had here, of course, had LeBron James as well. Oladipo didn't do very well. Buddy Hield went crazy. That was dope. Rajon Rondo, everyone was going to be on him. I ended up picking him to see what will happen, and not much happened from there. Of course, I picked Carmelo again, Mirotic, Ersan, and Kelly Olynyk at 4,000. He was a very solid play there. So those are the lines that I have there. So overall, just on my lines alone, I think I invested about $7 just on my lines. And I did have another lineup. It was like at 285. However, it didn't cash, but it would have cashed in a double up or a 50-50. So as you see, the only line that actually cashed for me last night was this one here. The other one I only put in the GPP. I didn't even bother to put it in a 50-50 or double up. So that was that. However, I did play the late slate. And for those that don't know, I am a member of Dfs Army, and they do have a lineup optimizer. And what I did, I decided to just throw a couple of bucks into the late slate. I did one on my own, and then I did one using their lineup optimizer. And what ended up happening was I ended up getting third place using the lineup optimizer. I didn't do any modifications on it or anything of the sort. And I ended up getting second place for $12.50. I ended up sharing third place with someone else. Otherwise, I think it would have been $15. At one point in time, I was in first place. But as you see, I missed it by 2.3 points, which is kind of normal, kind of very competitive, that type of thing. So, it worked out. Everything worked out. And I'm happy with the results overall that I received. And at this point, just grow, just doing my best to grow my account, So with no further ado, let's start with the lineup builder show. All right, so let's see. Let's get this out of the way there. All right, so we have a total of 5 games tonight, which is very good. It's very manageable, especially when you're doing what I do, which is, like I said, I spend about 15, 20 minutes plugging in information inside my particular optimizer, as well as, with a pen and pad, I write down all of the teams that are giving up the most points to the respective positions that they're playing against this evening. And so basically, I'm able to see who's who in the mix and so on and so forth. So today, what we have here, today we have some players that should be in some decent matchups, but we're going to find out right now. As you see, we have Damian Lillard, we have Carmelo Anthony. Again, he has a price drop of 400. Hassan Whiteside, Blake Griffin, DeMar DeRozan, Kawhi Leonard, Brook Lopez, Chris Paul, LaMarcus Aldridge, Porzingis, Warren, Nurkic. Let's see what else. Goran Dragic, McCollum, Williams. He is not a small forward. He is a center. What is going on with this thing? Okay, so anyways, let me switch that out there. Allen Williams is a center. Everybody should know this by now. Marc Gasol, Mike Conley, Dirk Nowitzki, Derrick Rose, Devin Booker, and Marquis Chris. All right. Now, if you're looking for value, let me modify this here. If you're looking for value, your top value plays are going to end up being your top 5 will be Carmelo Anthony, Brook Lopez, DeMar DeRozan, JJ Redick, and Derrick Rose. Okay. If you're looking for, so those are the guys. I think what we're going to do, we're going to start off with those 4. Of course, y'all know about Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo hasn't really been performing all that well. He is facing a Portland team that does give up a lot of points to the small forward position. On this list, Anthony is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's number 5 on my list as far as what teams are awarding the most points to small forwards, and Portland does. For tonight's slate, Portland is number 5 on the list. Okay. Of course, you can always look at this information online, like a stat stuffer or some other website that'll give you some rankings on, or DVP rankings and things of that nature. With this one is more based on Fanduel points awarded to the opposing small forward, in which case I said Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony has the highest usage on the team, yet he has been producing the least. Despite that, I'm going to stick with it. The reason being is because you don't really get Carmelo Anthony at this cheap of a price. Okay, you just don't. And even though he didn't really do the best yesterday, mind you, he was going against a team that is very strong defensively, but they allow the most points to small forwards in the league. So at least FanDuel points to small forwards in the league. So with him having his price drop to 6,500, I'm still going to plug him in. Projected, you're looking at around maybe 26.1 floor. But the ceiling is way up there, man. And he's going against Portland. It's a higher paced team. The over-under is 216. The matchup is not the best in the world, but he, at this price, all he needs is 30 to 35 fantasy points to meet value. So, or actually 32 fantasy points to meet value. If you look at it, 32. So, as we start, as always, we're going to start off with plugging him in. And there we have it. All right. So what I like to do now is we have Brook Lopez, who's next. Brook Lopez, honestly, tonight, he may or may not be lower owned. He may or may not. At 7,200, he's, he's still a good buy. He only needs 35 fantasy points to meet value. 36 fantasy points to meet value. And he's able to do it. This game against Phoenix is a very high-paced game. The matchup is okay. I mean, I think he has a very decent matchup, and I think that he can definitely capitalize on the young team that he's playing against. So, with that being said, I think we should really take a good look at Brook Lopez tonight. Again, he doesn't need much to meet value. Over the last few games, he's been averaging over 33 fantasy points. So it's very solid. Matter of fact, I would even call it as using him for cash tonight, considering the level of consistency and the type of teams that he's been playing against. I will highly consider him for cash. If he can hit over 30 minutes, he's going to give you over 30 or more fantasy points. He is one of those guys that's more of a point per minute type play. Right now, fantasy points per minute is at 0.7 right now. But with him, that's liable to change. This guy, let me remind you guys, this guy can easily go for 60 fantasy points, especially against a team that doesn't play that much defense. So for the sake of the show, I have him in there. Carmelo Anthony, Brook Lopez, they're in the building. And I don't know if y'all notice about my lines, but usually when my lines lock, I usually have about somewhere in the range of 40 to 60% of my players being super low owned, which is positioning me to get a lot higher in the GPPs and solidifying my position in cash games. So, just be mindful of the fact that you need low ownership, but you need low ownership from players that can produce. And these players are able to produce. Of course, most people are going to say Carmelo Anthony is more of a GPP option, but the consistency is there. The consistency, is there for him, and I highly do recommend him especially at his price of $6,500. Most people say, don't trust a man with a headband, or they'll say no, thank you. He hasn't been producing well, but I say go ahead and put him in anyway. All right. The next player that we have on the list today is DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan, of course, he was due for a comeback. He wasn't doing all that well, especially when he was in the let's see here, in the 92 to 9,700 dollar range. And right now he is at 9,000. So he's definitely a good buy for where he's at right now. The last couple of outings that he had, he didn't do so well in the last one, but before that, he averaged about 40 fantasy points at 8,500. Let's look at last season for him with this team, against this team. Against this team, of course, right here it was during the playoffs. But we're going to dismiss that part. Look, at 7,900, he went for 63 fantasy points against this team last season. Other time he went for 47, 41. And then of course there's one time where he just really didn't do very well. I think he might have been suffering an injury or suffer something at that particular time. He is getting the minutes. Kyle Lowry is still out, and they are leaning heavily on him to use him to get him, get them to the wins and whatnot. So, he's definitely somebody that you want to plug in tonight. So I'm going to plug him in, and let's see what's going on with that. Right now, as you can see, our salary remaining is 37.3, in which we can average about 6,200 per player. Let's see. Let me get some water here real quick. If you haven't tried it, water with apple cider vinegar goes a long way with your body. Just want to let y'all know. Anyway, so we have DeRozan, Anthony, and we have Brook Lopez, right? All right. Now, the next person is JJ Redick, and he's definitely a a good value for 4,400. Projected to score 2,480, and they are playing against Dallas. Seth Curry is not really much of a good of a defender. Dallas, they kind of struggle against the wing, surprisingly, just a little bit. On the list of the games, Dallas. Well, I'm sorry. The Clippers are number 5 in the teams that are projected to be awarded the most points to their shooting guards. So Redick is in play. At least for me, he is. You know, you can use him or not use him. It's totally up to you. The matchup is not necessarily all that favorable, but we've seen worse matchups than that with Redick. You know, in particular, you know, Utah or San Antonio. Dallas. They're not really that much of a threat. Last time he did play them against, though, he did 14.1 fantasy points. The time before that at 47, 10.9. Everything looks like we shouldn't play him, and we might be able to find better value elsewhere. But last season, you know, he averaged 23.7 against them, 23.4. Let's see, 18 and 12. Okay, so if we can't find better value elsewhere, then I would say JJ Redick is definitely going to be our guy for tonight in the value section for shooting guards. So let's go ahead and put him in there. And also, too, another thing that I'm looking at, too, is that this game, the over-under is the 3rd highest in the slate. So I know that there's going to be some points distribution going on there. And then also, too, another thing that I want y'all to look at is that his usage rate is up there along with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. Of course, again, the DVP matchup is not looking all that great, but Dallas does allow 106 points per 100 possessions to the opposing team. So he is going to get some kind of work. If you want, you could always pivot off to Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford, you know, at 3,800, he's you know, a little bit more consistent. I think this game, you know, as far as the shooting guards is concerned, might require more athleticism as opposed to fundamentals. And of course, Jamal Crawford offers a lot of that as well with the fundamentals too. But as you can see, let's see, 3,700, you know, he did 22.4 fantasy points. At minimum salary, he did 32.2 against this team. So, you know what? Let's plug Jamal Crawford in instead of JJ Redick tonight. You know, we're saving ourselves about $700, and I think that might be a good look. Well, no, I'm sorry, we're saving ourselves $600. Okay. All right, and guys, like when I do these lineups and everything like that, this is exactly the thought process that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, okay, who's a stud, or who's going to be highly owned? Who can I pivot off to and still be able to get the same amount of production? Those type of things, you know. And then of course I write everything out too, outside of having what I have. Okay. All right. So now we're up to out to Derrick Rose at the point guard position. Rose has been very consistent. Actually, Rose is pretty much good for cash and GPP. He does have that 40 to 45 point upside. However, in this game against Portland, in which his DVP match was it's okay, but he has the second highest usage in the team. Portland does give up 109 points per 100 possessions. And if you look at Rose's scenario, you will see that. Hold on a second, let me see something. Make sure. Okay, Fanduel. All right. You will see that he's been pretty much consistently in the 20 to 25, in the 25, 30 range. He did have one game where it was at 14.4. Against this team, however, let's see, he averaged at 5,800. He averaged 35.3 fantasy points. Let's see. Last season, when he was with the Bulls, let's see what kind of points he was getting out of them. At 7,028.8. He's able to score. Okay, guys. The thing about it is, if Carmelo doesn't do what he's supposed to do, or if he only hits floor, this guy's going to come in and pick up the rest of the slack. Because contrary to popular belief, he's not the type of person that likes to quit on his teammates. And this is just like, I guess, an emotional narrative, if you want to call it that. So with that being said, at 6,000, Derrick Rose, we're looking for 30 fantasy points right off the bat, 5x, potentially 7x, 8x. That'd be nice. Let's go ahead and plug him in. Mind you, Damian Lillard doesn't play that much defense at all. However, I totally forget. Derrick Rose is a game time decision with the foot. Even though he did come back to play last night, he wasn't as effective as he was before he got the slight little injury. So I would like to pivot off to someone else. In this case, what I would do is I'm going to switch up something here. I'm looking at value. Wayne Ellington, no. Isaiah Whitehead. Isaiah Whitehead only if Lynn is out. If Lynn is out, then Isaiah Whitehead and Dinwiddie would definitely be in play. But those aren't really the guys that I'm looking for right now. Let me see something here. Damian Lillard at 9,900. Well, I mean, he's playing at home. Let's look at his matchup. See, Rose -1. Damian Lillard has the highest usage. Let's look at his recent stats. 54, 56, 40, 47, 31, 47. And then we keep going down the list. And the last time they played at 9,000, he had 36 fantasy points. Last season, let's see what he had against them. 42. At 9,300, he had 42.8 and 43. So it's safe to say that his floor, his floor would be 37, and his projection would be 46.8, and his ceiling could easily be in the 50s or 60s. So, you know what? He's probably going to end up being highly owned tonight. You could easily ride the wave and pivot off on your secondary point guard. So far we have 23.6 left remaining, in which we can spend up to 5,900 per player or more, depending on who you pick. We have Damian Lillard, DeMar DeRozan, Jamal Crawford, Carmelo Anthony, and Brook Lopez. Okay, so that's a really good situation right there. Let's see. Okay, so the next person that we want to look at tonight is Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard against Memphis. If I'm not mistaken, he does pretty well. The matchup is neither here or there at this point, but usually with Kawhi Leonard, he's more or less like matchup proof. He did miss the last outing against them. And then the previous one, he only went for 33.9. My problem with Kawhi is the fact that he is so expensive. I think Kawhi is definitely one of those guys that needs to be in the, between the 8,000 and 9,000 range. Yeah, I think he performs better. I think you get more for your money when he's in the 8,000 to 9,000 range. Anything above that, he's just not a good play. And At least for me, he's not. And also too, you got to think this game is the lowest scoring of the bunch. So where's the distribution? You know what I mean? Yes, Memphis is giving up 104 points per 100 possessions, but in that same round, San Antonio's giving up 101, which is very weird. So however it comes, it should be very interesting how that goes. And surprisingly, Memphis plays a higher pace. No, sorry. San Antonio plays a higher pace than Memphis, but not by much. I don't see it. Honestly, I really don't see it. I'm going to fade this game overall. I feel like you can get better value elsewhere. But at the same time, it's one of those things too. If the news starts to come out and there are certain key players that are going to end up being missing from in illness or rest or whatever other excuse that they've been coming out with lately, then I might have to take a look into the Memphis San Antonio game. But for right now, I'm going to fade them. Okay. Devin Booker, shooting guard. He definitely can get you, upside of 45, 50. But, I've seen him do as low as, let's see, 18, 14, depending on how the game flow goes. As you can see, the matchup is pretty much in favor of Phoenix, considering that Brooklyn is pretty much sorry at just about every single position. However, the only thing that the DVP and all of the other stats will not show is that despite the fact that they're like dead last and everything, they still compete to the very end. And that's due to them having certain players that's in the mix that really want to win or, fight for position for next season. So, excuse me, guys, I have a little bit of allergies trying to clear it out. Last game, 18.3. Game before that, no show, 20.3, 24.4, 37.5 at 6,200, 44 at 62. Last time he played against these guys, only 24.7. Doesn't seem like it's going to work out in his favor in this game. His usage is not really there. No, I don't trust him for today's game. Now, if I was to do a stack, now that'd be a different story. I could stack him with Mark, Warren, Chris, and Williams, or Warren, Chris, and Lynn. So and matter of fact, I actually have some stacks for you guys too after this. Anyway, let's move on because I don't want to spend too much time here. But another person that we're looking at right now, small forward position, Harrison Barnes. Harrison has been, he's been okay. He hasn't really been all that, but the thing about it is with him being so cheap, you can't help but to try to plug him in and see what we can do. The Clippers struggle against small forwards. They allow points to the small forward position. And Barnes is actually number 7 on the list. But it's okay. I can ride with Barnes on that one. And when I mean number 7 on the list, as far as the list that I have written down here, again, like I said, I tell you guys, I kind of go back and forth and compare and contrast what my optimizer is saying as to what the league is saying, who's giving up the most fantasy points to, the opposing team. All right. So on this slate, the Clippers are 7th they're 7th on the list regarding giving up a lot of fantasy points to small forwards. Okay. I figure I just cleared that up so we can continue moving. That he's had a day's rest at home, averages about 29.3 fantasy points or more. With a day's rest, he's looking at about 28.7. On my optimizer here, we got him projected for 31. So, about 3 points more than what Daily Fantasy Nerd is projecting. Last time they played the Clippers, he went for 33.7 fantasy points, 30.8. So there's good signs of consistency there. And you know what? Just going to go ahead and plug him in. I like Warren a lot tonight too. But for the sake of this show, I just want to, plug in players that I feel are not going to be highly owned. And I feel that will still be able to give you the same production as those that are highly owned. Another person that you might want to look at outside of Warren is Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. He's been very productive, especially in this whole go about with Brooklyn. So with that being said, we have 18,000 left, 6,000 per player. Right now we're into our power forwards. And we have LaMarcus Aldridge, of course. I'm fading that game. We have Blake Griffin at 9,000. Let's look at Blake Griffin. You can see Blake Griffin has the highest usage in the team right now. His player efficiency rating is at 23. So pretty good. Dallas has given up about 106 points to the opposing team. And then, the Clippers are pretty much giving up about the same. It should be a very close game. It shouldn't be too much of a blowout. But if it is, then, we might be in for a little bit of trouble. Not too much. Let's see. Blake Griffin against Dallas. Let's take a look at that. At this point, it's easy to say that numbers don't lie. He was injured that one time. Before that, at 9,500, he only did 29.7 fantasy points, against them. Let's see. Last season, 40.7. Missed a lot of time. 36.3 at 10.2. 42 at 9.9. So you're not really seeing a lot of value there. You're only going to get you're not even getting 5x from him. Don't really trust him too much on that one. I'm going to be fishing for more consistency. So in a situation like that, I probably will go with Dirk Nowitzki and Kristaps Porzingis. Let's take a look at those gentlemen right there. No, excuse me. All right. Against Portland, Kristaps seems to do very well against them. 43.3 in the previous outing. The only outing that they had this season. It's a small sample size, but it's kind of cool to just say, you know what? Hey, let me just go ahead and plug him in and see what happens. Last season against them, at 64, he averaged 27.9. And the time before that, it was 5.6. Of course, he was a rookie. So as the sample size gets bigger and bigger, so will be so the prediction of what he can do. He has a good matchup against Portland. Amino is a good defender, but when it comes to the height advantage, athleticism, and the overall peripheral stats, Kristaps can definitely get that business in. It's a good matchup. He's definitely worth the plug at 7,000. So I highly recommend him, honestly. Ooh, excuse me. And he seems to do really well against West Coast teams, especially with them being higher paced. So there you have it with that. Now we have at 11,500 left to spend. Let's take a look at Dirk Nowitzki. He was next on our list. The matchup is somewhat even for him, so he either can show out or not. At 6,500 let's see, the first time they faced this season, he only hit for 17.7 fantasy points. I think that was like his first game back from injury. Then he had injured again, came back at 6,020.8. And, with a day's rest, he's going to, they're projecting him to do about 27.3 fantasy points. At home, 26 fantasy points. Last season, let's take a look at last season. At 6,700, he only averaged 23 fantasy points. The game before that, 6'6", 27.2. And, at 6'5", 43, and then at 6'2", 29. So, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I could plug him in, or I could try to find someone else that might be in a better position than he is. And the person that I feel would be in a better position than him would be Marquis Chris. People don't trust him. I like him. He's a dope player. I mean, at minimal salary, last time he hit for 22 fantasy points against Brooklyn. I don't know if they played another time after that. They haven't played another time after that, but this guy's been tearing it up, man, at his price, okay? He's still relatively cheap. He's been averaging 39, 28, 25, 30, and he's been getting the minutes. I mean, anything over 25 minutes, this dude is going to produce. So if you can project him at 30 minutes, let's just say he's going to give you anywhere between 30, 35 fantasy points. That's 7x on his price. So I'm definitely going to plug him in instead of Dirk Nowitzki. Let's see. So we're going to plug him in. And now we're at 5,900. All right. So now we got to fill in a position here. Who is it going to be? If Jeremy Lin doesn't play, then that's that. Derrick Rose doesn't play, that's that too. Ulis against Dinwiddie. That was actually somebody I was thinking about all day. Dinwiddie. Because honestly, guys, you can stack this game. This is definitely a game to stack on both sides. You can do 4-man stacks, 3-man, 4-man stacks, and you definitely get whatever you need to get out of that situation. All right. But for the sake of this, we're going to have Lopez. We already have Lopez and everything. So let's go ahead and just plug in Dinwiddie. Let's see. Let me see if he done anything significant against this team. Okay, he hasn't played them. Okay, what about Whitehead? Okay, Whitehead didn't play either. All right, so in a situation like that, I think I'm going to go with Dinwiddie. And because the minute's going to be there, the over-under is there. It's supposed to be somewhat of a close game. So, let's go ahead and plug him in. I would play Yogi, but Yogi against Chris Paul, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. Another person that you can probably go with, if not Yogi, you can go with maybe JJ Barea. JJ Barea, he does well when healthy. So, all right. So what you have now, guys, you have Damian Lillard, Spencer Dinwiddie, DeMar DeRozan, Jamal Crawford, Carmelo Anthony, Harrison Barnes, Kristaps Porzingis, Marquis Chris, and Brook Lopez. Those are definitely the guys that I want to target. Those are definitely the guys that I'm going to lock into this lineup. And, hopefully you guys can enjoy this particular line. So that's that. Let's talk about some stacks real quick. Okay. Again, the top stack that I have right now that has the most plays will be the basically, from the look of it, let's see, the top stack right now tonight is the Dallas stack, in which you can use Barrera, Curry, Barnes, Nowitzki, and Noel. Actually, Noel is number one in the center position for tonight. So you can, if you don't like Lopez, you could switch over to Noel in the center position. Okay, he's supposed to do pretty well tonight. Matter of fact, let's take a look at his situation here. Even matchup. You know, at 4,000, he did 45 fantasy points against the Clippers when he was playing with Philadelphia. And this guy can score. I mean, you know, and the peripheral stats are definitely there for him, okay? All right, so that's the top stack right now. The secondary stack that you can look at right now is a Miami stack, in which you can use the point guard, shooting guard, small forward, and center. But Whiteside is questionable for today, so honestly, I would dismiss that stack. Toronto stack was pretty good right here. We have DeMar DeRozan, Damari Carroll, or PJ Tucker. We have Patrick Patterson, considering that Ibaka is serving his one-game suspension, and Jonas Valanciunas. That's a four-man stack that I would recommend. Another stack that you might want to consider is if Derrick Rose is healthy, Rose, Lee, Carmelo Anthony, and Hernan Gomez. That's definitely another stack that you might want to consider. Another stack, of course, you could do Phoenix stack, or you could do a Brooklyn stack, whichever one is fine. If you're looking for something more unpredictable, I will go with a San Antonio stack, in which you could do Tony Parker, Danny Green, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Pau Gasol. And other than that, I mean, those are really the top stacks. But I feel like Dallas is going to be that stack tonight that a lot of people might be sleeping on. And if everybody does what they're supposed to do, you might have a chance of being high up there in the GPPs, or even take down the tournament. It's a small, 5-game slate, so there's less variance. So, you can get real creative. And, the more creative you are, I mean, I think the better you will be. Let's see. Another thing I want to show you guys is the Domination Station from Dfs Army. Let me go ahead and refresh that real quick. Okay. Real quick. All right, and then we're going to do this for Fanduel. Let's see. All right, so we have this here. We're going to create one line with them. And I just want to show y'all how easy it is to use this. You can lock in players. It's not like, it doesn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles, but it's very effective, and their projections are pretty good too. So again, this is the lineup optimizer that I used last night in the late slate that helped me win. $12.50. Most people say, "Oh, that ain't much. That ain't shit. Whatever. Blah blah blah." But 12 and a half times the money is always good, or 30 times the money is always good. Especially if you hit. So one of the things I'm gonna start doing, coming up is, I'm going to start attacking the $3 mini dribblers, in which first place gets $200, second place gets $120, and third place gets $70. So think about it. That same line, if I would have put it in the $3 scenario, could have won me $70. Or if I would have, tied for first place, I could have got probably like 150 or some change. So anyways, Let me optimize one lineup here for today. And let's see what they say on this one here. Okay. So what you have here, you have Goran Dragic, Tyler Ulis, Devin Booker, CJ McCollum, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Kawhi Leonard, Quincy Acy, James Johnson, and Brook Lopez. Okay, that's the lineup that they have there. This lineup is projected to do about 283. Of course, Dragic was number 2 on my list when it came to that on what I had written down. Tyler Ulis, I was thinking about, Devin Booker, of course, I know how I feel about him. CJ McCollum was not on my radar. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, I spoke about him. Kawhi Leonard, don't trust him. Let's see. They got him projected at 40.83, and we have him at 42.46. All right, not that much of a difference, only 2 points. But let's see, the floor on him, Kawhi's floor is 34. So, cash, somewhere in there. Let's see what else we have here. We have Quincy Acy. Let's look at Acy. Acy is with Brooklyn. Yeah, there we go. Because I think Devin Booker is out, so he's been starting power forward for that team. And for the most part, he hasn't disappointed. He's been, trying to get 5x. He only reached what, 7.2 a couple of games ago against Boston. So I'm guessing against, Phoenix, he might be able to, put in some work. If he's able to get anything over 30 minutes, you're looking to see about 25 or more fantasy points out of him. Even though his points per minute might look a little bit better, it just depends on the game flow. So, yeah, I can agree with that. And honestly, guys, one of my strategies too is I like to look at other optimizers, see who those optimizers are high on, and then I go back and research and find out why. Another person that was not necessarily on my list. I mean, they're on my list, but on the bottom end of my list, I should say, is James Johnson. The DVP matchup is looking pretty good. He's at 6,100. Last time he played against Toronto, he had almost 30 fantasy points. I'm pretty sure they played another time before that. At minimal salary, he had 18.6. So we're going to say anytime he can get over 25 fantasy points, this dude is going to be a monster. Anytime he reaches over 30 fantasy, anytime he reaches over 26 minutes, he's basically a monster. Anytime he reaches, over 30 or more minutes, this dude is pretty much a fantasy god. So yeah, I could see that, and definitely that, this lineup, I probably would want to play that too. So, and they also do it for DraftKings as well. I can do one quick one for DraftKings real quick. All right, let me optimize this real quick. All right, let's go back down here. And they have Mike Conley, Devin Booker, Kawhi Leonard, Noah Vonleh, Brook Lopez, Jeremy Lin, Quincy Acy, and DeAndre Jordan. I do have some projections for the DraftKings. Let's see here. Let's see what we have here for DraftKings. Excuse me. All right, guys. We have DeMar DeRozan, Brook Lopez, Carmelo Anthony, Lillard, Rose, Griffin, Leonard, Booker, Aldridge, McCollum, Barnes, Randolph, Porzingis, Redick. Yeah, so we do that. Let's see. Let's look at floor. Who has a good floor here? Right now, you're looking at Lillard, Whiteside, Griffin, Anthony, Paul, Leonard. Those are some guys you can take a look at for tonight. But this seems to be a lineup here that might be good for cash and whatnot. Okay, guys. So in any case, this is your boy Sean Black, aka DFS 5050. If you have any questions, hit me up on my Instagram at DFS 5050 about anything DFS regarding basketball. MLB is coming real soon. Actually, I'm going to be working on my optimizer for that. I've been having really good success with my optimizer. And anytime I do this with you guys where I'm sharing my information, I feel like I'm being taught myself and I become better and better. And through you guys becoming better and better, I pray that, one day y'all could do, somewhat of a show like this, and I might be able to learn from y'all. So hopefully, this has been a blessing to you in any form or fashion. I pray that it does. I pray that you cash well tonight. I hope that you take a look at some of the players that I have. And if you like the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you have any questions about tonight's slate, you can also hit me on the comment box down below. And, I thank you again for just tuning in. This is your boy Sean Black, and I am signing out.